What's good? What's good? What's good, beautiful people? This is your guy, Tone DeShields II from Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. As you guys can see, I'm here with the Don Dada, Philly 500, a.k.a. Denzel Washington,
Yeah.
a.k.a. one of the biggest guys on this Eagles content landscape, my man. One of the hardest working dudes I know, one of the most humblest dudes I know, man. I appreciate him as always, for coming in on the channel. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Continue to stay engaged in the live chat. Listen, you guys are going to want to stick around for this because 500 always brings the heat, you guys. That's a fact. But once again, thank you, Philly 500. Thank you, my man. Thank you,
Oh man,
thank you, Denzel,
you're welcome,
for
man.
gracing the platform with your
No,
presence.
I'm just honored that you would have this thing bat on. You know what I mean? I may look like Denzel, but that doesn't mean I'm him. So people sometimes could be a little bit disappointed when they find out the truth. You know,
Hey,
so
hey, listen, man. Us fellow thespians have to stick together. You feel what I'm saying?
I do. I get it, man.
Definitely, man. Definitely. So, let's get right into it, right? The obvious, the Philadelphia Eagles are in the Super Bowl, man. Like, this has been an amazing season.
Yep.
This season has been filled with many, many highs, the occasional low, but overall, it's been a spectacular season. And I have nothing but positive things to say about this team. Sure, we can nitpick, but overall, man, this team has, at least for me, exceeded my expectations. Have the Philadelphia Eagles met your expectations? Have they exceeded your expectations? Just give me your overall synopsis, your overall thoughts on how this season went and how we got here, man.
Yeah, this has been like, we're one game away from, to me, having just about as perfect of a season as you can have. And we can start back at the off season, right? We can start back the day that they signed Haason Reddick, which for a lot of people that came as a surprise. And then you had the draft and the AJ Brown trade. I mean, it's just been one thing after another all year. And then you look at the way this team is dominated on the field. I really went into the season thinking, all right, I think we can win a division and we can win a home playoff game. That was my ceiling, But once you start to see that this team actually could get the number one seed, and you kind of see how the conference looks, you're like, if they get home field advantage, nobody's coming in Philly and beating them. So that was, I would say, when I really said, oh man, this team can do something. I think after the Arizona game. Because historically, it always feels like we always struggle in Arizona. But when we came out undefeated after that game, I felt like, yeah, this team's got a real shot at at least getting that number one seed and maybe getting to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it just seemed like this team was just slaying all their past demons all year, right? They slayed the Arizona Cardinals demon, playing in the desert. For, like you said, for some reason, we always sucked in the desert. And I never really understood it. I don't know if it's the travel. I don't know if it's the heat. I have no idea what it is. But I think around that Cowboys matchup, the first one, after we beat them, I was like, okay, because I saw the way this offense handled Micah Parsons and, dealt with the defense that was firing on all cylinders, And then on top of that, I think about that Vikings matchup in week 2 when I saw the offense just humming. That was Jalen Hurts coming out party, And when I saw that game, I thought to myself immediately, okay, Jalen Hurts won't be the issue this year. And I think that was the biggest thing that everyone was concerned about. I mean, we all knew Jalen Hurts would improve. I think we all can agree on that. We knew he would take his game to another level, but I don't think we knew Jalen Hurts would take his game to this level. I don't think we expected him to be playing at this high of a ceiling right now. And honestly, I don't really know what his ceiling is, but for a second team starter, second year, third year in the league, second team All-Pro, Pro Bowler, MVP candidate, has a chance to win a Super Bowl and win Super Bowl MVP.
Right,
man, that's a hell of a season.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hell of a season, and the jump, that he's made, it's just tremendous. I mean, to me, I've been thinking a lot about like this game coming up on Sunday because I feel like everything went so perfect. You've got to finish it off, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you watch hockey or anything, but if you remember the story of the 1980 U.S. Olympic team, right?
Yeah.
They come back, they beat Russia, right? Which is like basically pros, and they're a bunch of college kids, and it's like one of the big upsets in history. But what people forget, they still had to play the gold medal game. And it was like, if they blew that gold medal game, everything that they did would be kind of forgotten about. You know what I mean? And I feel like this team has to finish this thing off. They have to finish this off Sunday. Otherwise, it's just another great season. It's like, to me, if they finish this off and win the Super Bowl, I think you're looking at one of the better teams that we have seen in recent years in the NFL. Because I think they've been actually underrated all year, not overrated.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It just seemed like people were kind of afraid to be all in on the Eagles all year. It just seemed like they continued to nitpick at the success. Jalen Hurts, but he has all these pieces over here. Nick Sirianni, he's too much of a character on the sidelines. I don't know about that run defense. Right. It just seemed like people was afraid to really go all in on the Eagles bandwagon. And I mean, you're right. You brought up a great point. They have to finish it off. This can't be one of those years where you just do everything right, and all of a sudden, when it comes down to the big game, when it's for all the marbles, you just fumble the bag. And I know all the odds makers have the Eagles as favorites. I think we're like a 1.5 point favorites, something like that, if I'm not mistaken. But I'll be honest with you, I don't believe that. And maybe that's just the Philly mentality, bleeding through. But I just don't think people in their heart of hearts believe this Eagles team can beat Patrick Mahomes. I mean, let's be honest. Patrick Mahomes is the only reason why that line is what it is. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it'll be astronomically in the Eagles' favor. Like when you think about it from 2 to 53, Eagles have a better roster than the Kansas City Chiefs. The quarterback position is the only thing that tips the balance or tips the scales.
Yeah, it's funny because like leading into the playoffs and stuff, people said, well, what team out of the AFC would you think you probably wouldn't want to see, if any, if I had to choose? And I was at Kansas City. Not that I didn't think we could win, because I think we're going to win, but it's the Mahomes factor, right? Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid. I mean, they've been there quite a lot. So you never know. I felt like we would match up really good against Cincinnati. I felt like we would match up really good against Buffalo. But you never know with Patrick Mahomes. That's what you have to be worried about. His ability to create plays, some of the things he can do. He's scary. I have no doubt that if Kansas City does win this game, there's no doubt Mahomes is the MVP, because if he doesn't have a huge game, they're not winning. They've got no chance.
That's how I feel about it. I feel like Mahomes, in my opinion, he has to throw the ball 50 plus times, over 300 yards, like 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns. I think Mahomes has to have a monster game. And the reality is, so far in these situations, in both of his Super Bowl appearances thus far, he hasn't really played well. If outside of that fourth quarter against the San Francisco 49ers, he hasn't played well in the Super Bowl. And, even you can even say the team kind of struggled or limped their way to this point now. Yeah, they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, but Mahomes sustained a very serious injury, the high ankle sprain in that game, and that game still felt like it was going down to the bitter end. And then you think about the Bengals matchup, and that game was nip and tuck. That game could have went any way. Honestly, you can make an argument the Bengals should have won that game if special teams does their job, or if the linebacker doesn't, push Patrick Mahomes out of bounds. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, we could be having a whole different conversation. And it's so funny. You said the Bengals may have been a better matchup. What makes you say that? Because I think about, the first thing that comes to mind to me is Joe Burrow with all those skill guys, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd, right? And Joe Mixon. I understand. Like, I personally feel the Bengals have a better roster than the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are more top heavy, which is why I feel like the Eagles probably had a better chance against Patrick Mahomes, even considering the Patrick Mahomes factor. Yeah. But what made you think, or what makes you feel as though the Bengals probably would be a better matchup?
Well, I think a lot of it is the Patrick Mahomes factor. Okay. I mean, I like Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow is a really good player. But the one thing about that game that I really was like licking my chops about was I think the Eagles' defensive line was going to destroy that Cincinnati Bengals line. I think Burrow was going to have a tough day. I really wasn't worried about their run game. And yeah, they have passing weapons and they would have done their thing. But I just feel like it was going to be such a mismatch, offensive line, defensive line. I feel like Mahomes is that guy that can get away and make something into nothing. And then the other thing is coaching. I think that you have Andy Reid, who's been there a lot. And listen, he hasn't had his best games in the Super Bowl and things like that, but he's a Hall of Fame coach. And anytime you go up against a Hall of Fame coach, it's a big deal. So I thought from the coaching standpoint, I thought from the line of scrimmage, I thought the Eagles would dominate them on both sides of the ball. That's why I thought Kansas City would be a tougher matchup.
Yeah, I get it. And you're right. That Cincinnati Bengals offensive line would have been barbecue chicken. You're absolutely
right.
You're absolutely right. That offensive line would have been pasta fazool.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
cannolis and everything. Cannolis for everybody.
Cannolis for everybody on that defensive line that night. You ain't kidding.
For sure. So, this matchup here. Since we're already talking about the offensive lines, right?
Yeah.
And we know the Chiefs. They have Chris Jones on the defensive line, and pretty much everyone else. I mean, I know they have Frank Clark. And they have the rookie George Karlaftis, who's still finding his way around the league. Frank Clark, he's a spotty player, not consistent at all. Pretty one-dimensional. On top of that, the Chiefs struggle to stop the run. That's just the reality. They're not one of the better teams when it comes to stopping the run.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, their run defense is Patrick Mahomes putting up a lot of points so the other team can't run the ball.
Right.
That's their run defense. So,
right.
What's your thoughts on how this Eagles offensive line can dominate the Chiefs defensive line? What's the most optimal situation for this offensive line?
Well, I think just if you look at those guys and you mentioned Jones, I mean, he's a great player, but how many great players have we came up against this year with this offensive line and shut them down? This line has dominated everybody. Bosa, Micah Parsons. I mean, they've handled everybody. So I trust that they'll get the job done. And then you said, like you said, the ability to run the ball is going to be huge for the Eagles. I think the Eagles need to run the ball. I think if you could have long sustained drives and score points, I only think it's going to put more pressure on Mahomes. I like the idea of Mahomes on the sidelines, because Mahomes is a stud. There's no question about it. And if you look at how teams have beat the Eagles, they have beat the Eagles by running the ball, controlling time of possession. So I think the Eagles run the ball, be balanced. I think would be fine. I really think the Eagles' offensive line is that good. And I think it's a huge advantage over their defensive line. I do. And I know Jones is good. He's got, 15, 16 sacks. I think he's going to have a problem with the Eagles line.
Yeah, I just feel like he's going to be on an island, right? I feel like he's going to be by himself. It's kind of like that defensive line is going to be essentially Chris Jones or bust, if you ask me.
Right.
And I don't think it's not. I don't think this is a fact. Actually, they haven't gone up against an offensive line this complete, this dominant, this deep, this talented, right?
Yep. It is.
So, oh no, you're good. So I'm thinking about this, right?
It just clicked out there for a second. Sorry.
Okay. Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah. So like I'm thinking about Jason Kelce, Landon Dickerson, Isaac Samalu, right? So do you Lane, Mailata, right? So do you recommend they run directly at Chris Jones to get him on his back, to get him backpedaling, essentially to wear him out? Because again, I don't think this Chiefs defense can run 4 quarters with the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. I just feel like I feel like this Eagles team is way too physical.
I have no problem running at him, run around them. Just do what you've done. I honestly think that offensive line is so good. And I think it's one of the better offensive lines we've seen in the league in years. I think it's that good. I think yeah, they could run right at him. They don't need to run at him. I think that no matter what they do, they're going to be able to do it. Just run, just establish that run game, get it going. I think it'll help out Hurts a lot.
Yeah, and guys like Miles Sanders, Kenny Gainwell, they both had pretty good seasons. I mean, Miles obviously had his first 1,000-yard season. Kenny Gainwell's come alive in the playoffs. He had a 100-yard game against the Giants. What's your thoughts on Miles Sanders and Kenny Gainwell in this Chiefs matchup? How can they take advantage of this lackluster Chiefs run defense?
Well, the thing is, Miles to me, he's been one of the better backs in the league this year. He's a stud. I like the idea of feeding Miles. I think Miles should have at least 20 touches. I think Miles should have 20 touches every week. Why he doesn't get that and why they take him out on third down, I'll never understand it. But here's a guy that could break an 80-yard run at any time, at any point in the game. And if you can get Miles Sanders going where he's averaging 5.5 yards, 6 yards a carry, that puts so much pressure on that defense, because now Hurts could keep the ball running himself. Then you could also pull back and throw. I would like to see Miles get going early, but also like you mentioned, Gainwell. You have to look at the way Gainwell's played in the playoffs. He's really come along well. So I'm sure that they'll use Miles on first, second, and Gainwell will be the third down back. But I would like, what I would like to see with the running backs, not in the running game, but Spagnuolo's going to blitz. That's the old Jimmy Johnson style defense they used to play. One of the ways that the Eagles can beat the blitz, and when they've been blitzed in the past, they don't do this enough. But I think if they could run some screens to Miles and to Gainwell on those blitz, they could pick up chunks of yards. I think the screen pass to those running backs will be there. Now, they haven't really taken advantage of that whole lot this year, but this would be a perfect game, and I don't think Kansas City would see it coming.
I think you may be onto something. Shout out to Vape Ross Vape with the $2 super chat. Philly thinks my mom said you're a kind and giving lover.
Philly,
oh man.
Your mom says, I am what I am.
You asking, you shall receive.
There you go.
Thank you, Vape Ross Vape, for the $2 super chat, man. Appreciate you, man. It means a lot. But yeah, you bring up a good point. Seeing those running backs in the screen game, we haven't really seen that much, and that also can, take some pressure off of Jalen Hurts. I mean, we know he's dealing with that shoulder, and I still have my concerns about it because he hasn't really had that touch on his deep ball as of late. He's been overthrowing AJ Brown on some pretty easy throws that he's been making prior to that Chicago game. So, I mean, one can ask, like, how effective will he be throwing that ball downfield? Will the Chiefs try to test him and lock things down, on the flats and on the short and intermediates, and try to force him to prove that he can throw that ball downfield?
Yeah, I think they probably will. But Spags is going to blitz. We watch Jim Johnson. He's going to blitz, and when I think of a game, especially a team that blitz really heavy, Jalen Hurts early in the year was in that Detroit game. Remember week 1, Detroit kept blitzing and blitzing, and he kept killing them with his feet. But I also think you could use those guys in the passing game more. Now they haven't done it. Right. But I'm saying if you want to pull something out, maybe they're not expecting. If you could catch Miles and Gainwell on the screen pass on some of those blitzes, maybe you have a 3rd and 4, right? And they're gonna they're bringing the house, they're gonna blitz. Maybe that's where you pull it out, something like that. But I think it would be something cool to see.
Yeah, I would love to see Kenny Gainwell running like those old school Brian Westbrook screens. That would be exciting because, again, I think Kenny Gainwell, man, he's more explosive than what people have given him credit for. And I know, tell me if you see something different, right? I feel like horizontally, he's quicker than Miles Sanders. I feel like he's a bit more explosive at the point of attack. That first step, he just seems like he hits the hole a little harder than Miles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's probably why they like him on third down. I don't know. My thoughts on Gainwell right now is I've really liked what I've seen the last two playoff games. I don't know that I think he's a number one back. I don't know that I see him as being a lead back. I think he's in a good position what he is right now. But I think that's probably why they play him on third down, because I do think he hits it a little quicker, a little harder than Miles. Miles could dance sometimes, you know what I'm saying? But the thing with Miles is Miles could pop off that 80-yarder at any point in time.
That's true.
That's what I love about Miles.
No, you're right. You're right. You know, the bottom line is they got two running backs that can really hurt this Chiefs defense. And again, it always goes back to the offensive line, because the Eagles' offensive line is just so dominant. I haven't seen them get bullied at any point throughout this season. You know, I just haven't seen it. And I think they even did a good job against that San Fran front. I mean, San Fran obviously lost their quarterback, and they were kind of playing, you know, with one hand time behind their back. But the reality is that Eagles offensive line dominates anybody in front of them. And the Chiefs defense is nowhere near the San Francisco 49ers defense. So you can make an argument. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I totally agree with you. And I was going to say, you know, the thing with the 49ers and one of the things about the 40-winers that they can't seem to let this game go is the Eagles hurt their quarterback because they got to him, because that defensive line is that dominant, right? Haason Reddick is that dominant. So, you know, to me, that you got to credit the Eagles for that. You know, it's not poor 49ers. They had bad luck. No, you got destroyed. That's why you lost, you know?
That's a fact. You know, I go on Twitter and I see Deebo Samuel. I see Brandon Ayuk. I see Christian McCaffrey. And, you know,
every day.
I look at these guys and I'm like, y'all got to let it go, because the reality is this isn't the first time your team has choked in the playoffs, right? I'm tired of guys doing victory laps for just being invited to the dance, right? No, you don't get brownie points for just writing your name on a sheet of paper. You don't get brownie points for just showing up to the dance, my man.
Yeah,
you gotta get on that dance floor and take home the prom queen. You're not getting credit for just showing up and looking good and looking nice while doing it. No, you gotta get on that dance floor, show what you're working with, and take home the prom queen.
Yeah. Am I still here? Can you still see me?
Yeah, I still see you. It's a little glitchy, but I can hear you just fine.
It's all weird. My computer's all freezing up. I don't know what's going on. So
no, you're good, man.
Like the internet, everything's acting weird. It's been acting really weird. We might. I'm gonna get. I need to get conspiracy theory here, so I'll keep that out. But because you never know. But yeah, you know, I said this in my video today. I liken the 49ers because I'm with you. I am so sick and tired of seeing Deebo Samuel and all these guys cry. Brandon Ayuk.
Oh, we lost my man Philly 500. We're gonna get him back in a second. But yeah, you know, the bottom line is we can't continue to cry about what was and what it could have been. The bottom line is Kyle Shanahan allowed his quarterback to get blown up because he decided to put a tight end on Haason Reddick. I don't care what the play called for. I don't care what the design was. You allowed your tight end to block Haason Reddick, or lack thereof, and he got blown up, and so does your quarterback. And then once again, your fourth string quarterback or second string, however you want to decipher or break it down, he got hurt because Ndamukong Suh blew him up. The bottom line is that San Francisco offensive line and additional blocking help from the tight ends and or running backs did not do their jobs. And we're not going to sit here and act like, oh, it was a fluky injury. Like, oh, man, Brock Purdy tripped. You know, Brock Purdy made a cut and he hurt his ankle, or an offensive lineman stepped on his foot or stepped on his arm. You know what I mean? We're not going to pretend like this was a fluky situation. The Philadelphia Eagles defensive line came in and wreaked havoc. Plain and simple. They came in and they wreaked havoc. They made sure that they put they hard hat on, and they made sure they wrecked the game. Haason Reddick wrecked the game. And Ndamukong Suh wrecked the game. Like we can't keep crying about this stuff. We can't keep crying as if if Brock Purdy was in, you guys would have won the game, or if Josh Johnson, whatever his name is, if he would have stayed in the game, they would have won the game. The bottom line is you don't put a tight end to block Haason Reddick when he's one of the hottest pass rushers in the league. You just don't do it. And I'm not going to feel bad. I'm just not.
Yeah.
And I got to shout out Grant Cohen. Grant Cohen, he covers the 49ers, and he's been keeping it real. He says, look, how can this is the exact mentality from the 49ers that has them where they are today. They think they've won the Super Bowl when they haven't won anything.
Right.
They think they're immortalized and they have done nothing to prove that to prove that they're a force to be reckoned with. Yeah, your defense has been the best in the league. Yeah, you on this amazing win streak, but nobody stole nothing from you. This wasn't no fluke. Nobody stepped on Brock Purdy's foot. Nobody accidentally, fell on Josh Johnson. These guys got wrecked because of Kyle Shanahan being cocky, and that's the reality.
Yeah. I got booted, right? Did I get booted on here?
Yeah, something happened. I don't know.
I got booted, and I was trying to go back on, and it kept saying that the stream doesn't exist.
Wow.
So I don't know what's going on.
I'm telling you, it's a conspiracy right now.
Oh man, I'm thinking we just had that China balloon floating all over the country, right? Who knows what's coming? Incoming. Watch out.
For sure, man. For sure. But yeah, man, it's this isn't a what could have happened, what should have happened, what did happen. You know what I mean?
Well, to me, the reason they didn't have Purdy was an act by the Eagles. To me, that was like a grand slam. It's a grand slam home run. The Eagles hit a grand slam and they cut the snake off the head. If Purdy got hurt, on the sideline or in warm-ups, I would understand it. But when you're talking about the Eagles to you can't take that away from them.
Yeah, and it probably hurts even more when you continue to find yourself in these games, these big games, and y'all still can't get it done.
Yeah.
Right? And the bottom line is y'all made it to the Super Bowl that 1 year, and you haven't been back since. You made it to the NFC Championship, lost that game, blew that game. Once again, you made it to the NFC Championship, blew that game. The bottom line is you guys can't get it done when it matters most. Maybe y'all need to put y'all medical staff under investigation because clearly guys cannot stay healthy over there. Nick Bosa, game, he was grabbing that hamstring. I felt like he was copping a plea because Lane Johnson was whooping that ass.
Yeah, Lane Johnson didn't have a groin. That thing was torn off, and look at Lane.
Exactly. So, let's talk about the skill position guys, right?
Okay.
Wide receivers. Our wide receivers going up against those young Chiefs DBs, safeties and corners. I just think it's a matchup nightmare for those guys. Like just from a physical perspective, right? I don't think they match up size-wise. I don't think they match up skill-wise or experience-wise. What's your thoughts on, the matchups at the skill position?
Yeah, well, I mean, teams have been able to move the ball in the air against the Kansas City Chiefs too. So I think that all season long, I think the Eagles have always had a huge advantage of their wide receivers up against corners. I think part of it is you got two dynamic wide receivers that are totally different, but complement each other so well. You got the big physical A.J. Brown. It's going to, use his body, good yards after the catch. And then you got the really good hands, fast, great route runner, Devontae Smith. I mean, it's like pick your poison. You've got to have two corners that can play in this league that match up well against them. I haven't seen anybody really be able to shut both those guys down. And then you add Dallas Goedert on top of that. And, Hurts' ability to run and a great offensive line. I think it's going to be scary for the Chiefs all day. I almost think the Chiefs are going to be willing to give up a little bit on the run to try to keep those guys from anything too explosive.
That's a mistake. That's a huge mistake by them. If they give it, see, that's the thing about this running game. You give them an inch, they take a mile. You know what I'm saying? Right. You can't. Right. I just don't know. And I've been saying it's just a matchup nightmare for them. Like they couldn't have gotten a worse matchup.
Well, Tone, one of the things with this Eagle team is their ability to change. Like they could change what they want to do on offense. after each drive. They've gone in a half and come out and they've thrown heavy first half, gone in the second half, and totally been a run team. Like it seems like whatever the Eagles want to do, they have the talent to do it. You know what I'm saying? So it's a scary, scary thing. And if you look at the way that the three teams that won this year against them, they all had one thing in common. They all controlled the time of possession early in games, especially in the first half, and kept that offense off the field. I think that's what you need to beat the Eagles. You have to have a run game. This is the problems that I think the Chiefs are going to have. They don't have it. So
a consistent run game. You're right. They don't.
Yeah. So I think that the Eagles will be able to move the ball offensively at will the whole game. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think the Eagles are going to put up a lot of points.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those games where as though Patrick Mahomes has to play flawless football. He can't make a mistake. He can't have a quarter where he has 2 or 3 and outs in a row. They can't afford for that to happen because again, this Eagles offense, they move the ball so well, and you said it, they have an ability to just morph and pretty much do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
And you brought up the running back screens, and somebody in the chat brought up the tight end screens, right? Dallas Goedert eats in those situations. What's your thoughts on Dallas Goedert in this situation? How can he take advantage of the Chiefs' lackluster linebackers?
Yeah, well, he's been great on those tight end screens. I love Dallas Goedert. He's just another weapon that they'll have. I could totally see him having a monster game. Like I actually think Devontae Smith's going to have the big number game. I don't know why. I just had this gut feeling. Maybe it's because he had over 200 yards in the national championship.
I was about to say he's big time, right?
Yeah, he's a big time guy. I just got a feeling, but I think Goddard, AJ Brown, and Devontae Smith are gonna be making a lot of plays.
Yeah, Devontae Smith. He's just he it's funny. He said it in his one of his press conferences. He was like, these are the games I'm built for. I'm built for these kind of games. Y'all know my track record. I mean, I'm kind of embellishing on what he said, but I'm adding a little spice. But he basically was saying, y'all know these are the games I thrive in. Yeah. You know what I mean? Even in that San Fran game, that was a big catch, even though we all technically, it wasn't really a catch, but hey, it counted.
It was a catch.
It was a catch. It was a catch. It's funny. I got into an argument or a debate with a Chiefs fan. I mean, not a Chiefs fan, a San Fran fan, in one of my comment sections, and I try not to get too deep into it, but sometimes you can't help yourself. One guy was like, "It wasn't a catch. What are you talking about?" Da, da, da. And I'm like, "Well, last time I checked, it counted in the box score. Last time I checked, the Eagles converted that 4th down. So I don't know, buddy. Yep. I think it was a catch."
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of that too. You know what I tell them? I said, all right, well, if that's not a catch, then Joseph, when he recovers that fumble, is a touchdown because they shouldn't have blown that play dead. That play should not have been blown dead. It was a fumble. So the fact that they blew the play dead saved the 49ers 7 points. So if we're going to do that, you know what I mean? We could do that all day. Fine, not a catch, but we got the touchdown back to the next drive.
Yeah, you can make an argument that the Haason Reddick sack on Josh Johnson when he stripped him, when he sacked him. Well, was that a fumble? Was that a fumble?
It looked close to me. It was close.
It was pretty damn close to me too. So I mean, like you said, we can play the what if or the this or that game all we want.
Yeah.
But Devontae Smith, the point I was trying to get to was on that catch. That was a big time catch. Yeah, I mean, if it was cleaner, I would say easily that was the best catch of the year for any Philadelphia Eagles receiver.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Devontae Smith is a stud. I mean, I remember going on the show with Dan Cilio and Big Sills and saying by the end of the year, Devontae Smith will lead this team in receptions. What did he do?
You did say that. I remember that. Damn, that's crazy. Damn. Yeah. You definitely did. And not just lead the team, he broke the team record.
Broke the team record with 95 catches. And he didn't have any catches week 1.
If he would have had any catches in week 1, he would have had over 100 catches.
Yeah, I
Easily.
know.
Because how many he had in season 95? He had 95 on the season, right?
95, yeah, 95.
All he needed was 5 catches in week 1.
Yeah,
Or
and this
like,
is
go ahead.
a second-year player. This kid's
Second
a
year.
stud, bona fide stud.
Facts. And just his approach to the game. I love his demeanor. It's so funny.
I do too.
Like Smitty has like an alter ego. Like, in real life, he's real laid back, chill, doesn't really talk too much, real humble.
Yeah.
He get in that field, man. He turns into the Slim Reaper. Like,
I know.
He talks a lot when he's out there, especially when he's mic'd up. That boy get excited.
Yeah, he's good. He is my favorite player in the whole league.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's cool. That's cool.
It's because he's thin, and everybody said he wasn't going to be able to survive a season. He'll never make it through, and he's played 2 full seasons, and he's playing in the Super Bowl. And I think they said if he wins, he'll be just the 4th player to ever win a national championship, a Heisman, a Super Bowl. Like only 4 guys have done it, and they're all great players.
Hall of Famers, I think. Charles Woodson, I think, did it.
Tony Dorsett. Yeah, I forget who else it was, but
yeah,
I mean,
No, you're right. You're right, man. Smitty, AJ Brown, these dudes, they've completely changed the complexion of, in my opinion, the Eagles' culture.
Yeah.
From an offensive perspective, let's be honest. Historically, the Philadelphia Eagles aren't really known for their wide receivers.
Right.
They're not.
No.
Sure, we can say, okay, the Deshaun Jackson, Macklin era was solid, but those guys was rarely on the field at the same time because of injuries. And then, you can go back and say T.O. and everybody else.
Well, that's right.
You can go a little further back and say, okay, that 1 year or 1 moment when Carmichael and Quick was on the field, but Carmichael was already old at that point.
You had Quick and Chris Carter, but Chris Carter he wasn't Chris Carter that we didn't get Minnesota's version of Chris Carter.
Yeah, we had
he wasn't ready.
Yeah, we had Where's the Blow, Chris Carter.
Where's the Blow? Fred Barnett, Calvin Williams. Yeah, I mean, the thing with Deshaun and Macklin were really good. Macklin was, but Deshaun was a deep threat. He wasn't really like these 2 guys are bona fide number 1 wide receivers.
Bona fide wide receivers. They're complete route runners.
And they're different though. You know what I'm saying? Like one's big and physical and fast and yards after catch. The other one is smooth, runs perfect routes, great hands, and it's a hard matchup.
Yeah. Some people even say that maybe by next season, Smitty can probably overtake AJ Brown as being the best receiver. And like you said, they're both number 1s in my opinion. Any given day. Yeah. One guy could be the number 1, the other guy is the 1B. We've seen Smitty had a stretch this year where he had 100 yards for 4 games in a row.
Yeah, I know. And there were a couple of those games were all done in the first half. He didn't have, because they were up so much. Imagine if it was a close game, he could have had a lot of yards.
Yeah, man, definitely. And of course they elevate Hurts, but
right.
Hurts took his game to another level as well. Like we said before, and he made their jobs easier. We can't deny Hurts was throwing pinpoint deep balls all year. Pinpoint. And he was putting the ball exactly where those guys wanted it. People can make the argument, oh, Hurts isn't a dynamic thrower. He doesn't have the arm talent. People always get into those, those nitty-gritty, overcomplicated, pointless conversations because they want to deny what their eyes are seeing. Yeah. And the reality is, Jalen Hurts is a top 10 quarterback. I would say he's top 6. I would say he's a top 6 quarterback in his NFL. He plays the position differently.
Right.
He plays the position differently, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people don't want to talk about the rushing yards or the rushing touchdowns, but the reality is, Hurts had 35 touchdowns on the year.
Yeah.
Over 4,000 yards of total offense. Come on, man, we got to give credit where credit is due.
I think to me, one of the strangest things this year to me has been the Jalen Hurts, haters. I was not a Jalen Hurts hater, but I was I don't know guy. I'm like, I don't know if this guy's the guy or not. I really didn't know. I thought he did enough to earn another year to go out and see what he could do.
Agreed.
But if you look at his passing game and how much he's improved from the year before, like, why do people act like he's maxed out? Like, if he's taking the next step, what makes him not going to be better passer next year and the year after? To me, there are a couple throws that I thought he proved to me he can make every throw. That Minnesota game he threw, the Minnesota game to pass to Quez Watkins, it was a deep ball. He proved that his deep ball, in my opinion, that game got better. And then there were a couple games where he had some 15, 20-yard outs that he was like at the sideline with Brown and Devontae that were just perfectly thrown balls. I really think that people just can't give the guy his due. I think he's a top 4 to 5 quarterback, in my opinion. I got him at 4 or 5.
I just try to be humble, when I say it, right? I try not to be overzealous, because I know he's in his 3rd year in the league, and I know his guys that have been in the league maybe a little longer. I just try to be modest about it, right?
Yeah.
I try to look at it. I feel like saying like top 6, top 5 is reasonable. Reasonable to say so people don't argue the hell down. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But you're right. You brought up the fact that he showed that he can make essentially every throw, and I think to me what stood out was the fact that he was making throws going to his left. He was he wasn't afraid to throw the ball in the middle of the field, in between the numbers. And just as much arm strength as it takes to throw those out routes, it takes arm strength to throw those quick slants because DBs can jump those if they have what is it inside leverage, you got to be careful. And there's times where he's delivered throws where I'm like, oh my God, it's a pick, but it gets through, and he's done it on more than one occasion.
Yeah. He's improved so much in his passing game. To me, I laugh at it now because people say, well, he only threw for this many yards or he only threw this many touchdowns. But how many games are we talking about? The whole second half we're running the ball because we're up by so much. I mean, We were beating the crap out of everybody in the first half. He doesn't miss those 3 games. I think he throws 30 touchdowns.
Yeah,
I really
4,000 yards as well. I agree with you because on the season he ended the season with 3,700 passing yards. You mean to tell me he can't get 300 passing yards between two extra games?
Yeah, exactly. And he's got all the intangibles, Tone. I mean,
that doesn't get talked about enough, in my opinion.
He's a great worker. He's clutch. He can put the team on his back. The players love to play for him. He's a hard worker, and I don't know what else this kid has to do. To me, I guess the 2 things that I have to see from him is, he just got to do it consistently. Then for next year and year after, great quarterbacks continuously do it year after year.
Well, 500. What he has to do, right? This is what he has to do. He has to find all 5 Infinity Stones, right? He has to defeat. Right. He has to defeat Thanos with a paperclip and a toothpick. Yeah. He has to find a way to crush King the Conqueror.
Yeah.
He has to find a way to beat the Joker, beat Bane. He has to beat all. He has to beat all the supervillains in the world. Like people continue to move the goalposts with this kid, and it's at this point, you really wonder, like, damn, like, are they being genuine, or is it just a narrative that's being pushed? I'm having a hard time understanding people's reasoning.
I think people get caught up in, I said this or I made this comment, and I can't humble myself enough to say I was wrong. I really believe that. I look at a guy like Chris Sims, like, you just do not want to give him just give it to, just say, just go. Don't be like, I was wrong, but, no.
It's always that. It's always a but. It's always a but.
If I'm wrong, and believe me, I've been wrong. I've been wrong a lot. All right. I'm getting ready to bend the knee to Howie Roseman very soon. So, I've been wrong. But, you got to admit when you're wrong and move on. I didn't know when the Eagles drafted Hurts, I didn't like the draft pick. It wasn't big. And I said in my video, it's not anything to do with Hurts. I just think you should have gotten something to help the player you had. You had just paid him. but it was the right move. And then, I didn't know if Hurts was the guy or not. But after this year, I've seen enough. Um, I'm sold. I paid him in, and I think he's only going to get better with time. The one thing that I think he's got to do though is I do think they have to keep him healthy. Like I think this thing where he runs so much right now, I think they got to start year after year. They got to start toning it back more and more because he's got to last. And I think as he gets better as a passer, you run him less and less and less. I mean, he takes off when he needs to and things like that. But the only thing people can really say is that he's been hurt 2 years in a row. So that's the one thing I think that's got to happen going in the future with him.
No, yeah, you're right. It's funny. We thought that his rushing attempts would go down this year, but instead they went up. Mm-hmm. And, I don't have a problem with him using his legs, but I kind of have a problem with, because look, the reality is the hits add up. They add up, and, second year in a row he's been hurt. And obviously last year he got hurt in the pocket, so can't really put that one on him. But this year I feel like he got hurt because of poor play call or a poor game plan. I mean, why do you feel the need to run your quarterback in that situation? It's brick in Chicago. The turf, the grass is hard as concrete.
I know.
Listen, I climbed a tree and fell out of a tree when the damn grass was cold.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I know what it's like. It feels like you falling on concrete, man.
Yeah. No, it's true. And if you look at the great running quarterbacks who lasted in this league, as they got older, they all ran less and less. Steve Young ran a ton early on, became a passer. Randall Cunningham ran a ton early on. Look at him in Minnesota. He didn't run hardly at all. He was a passer. Michael Vick, even with us, became a better passer. I think you have to tone it back as they get older and they become more comfortable in the pocket. And I think they'll do that with Hurts. I get a little nervous on those 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1s, where they quarterback sneak. People could just roll on them or hit them or whatever. I think, like you said, you keep doing it, you're going to get worn out, going to get hit. Something's going to happen. So I think that's the one area in which I want to see them tone that back a little bit and let him, just become a better passer. And I think he'll be fine. And I think he'll accomplish it because he's going to work at it.
Yeah, the good thing about it is the fact that you have a quarterback who's not just a dual threat guy. He's a triple threat. Beat you with his arm, beat you with his legs, but also beat you with his mind. I think he's one of the most astute, one of the most savvy dual threat quarterbacks that we've ever seen. His ability to operate, the zone reads and the RPOs and manipulate linebackers, just manipulate running lanes and manipulate entire front sevens. Like, it's his ability to just be patient, take what they give him. Because let's be honest, we've seen him take, like, throughout the season, let's be real, we haven't really seen him take the biggest hits, but he's had some untimely hits. He's had the hits where it's like, he's a smart dude. He runs out of bounds. He's not afraid to throw the ball away. You know what I mean? He doesn't take hits like a Cam Newton. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Like, he doesn't take hits like a Lamar Jackson.
He reminds me of Russell Wilson in that regard. And he's another one that as he got later in his career, he became more of a passer too. But yeah, he's very smart. I don't. The one thing is, it's funny because all these people want to have conversations about Hurts. He's the one guy I don't worry about. The one guy I'm not worried about going forward is Jalen Hurts. I think he's fine, and whatever he needs to do, he'll do it, and I trust him.
Yeah, I feel like he's definitely earned our trust. Just his approach to the game, his approach to his his work ethic and his commitment to his teammates, and he has this trust. I think this is what separates him from other dual threat quarterbacks. They felt like they had to do everything,
right?
And he, in my opinion, the way he operates, he has he understands what he's capable of, but he also has no problem dumping it to his tight end.
Right.
Dumping it to his wide receivers. He has no problem allowing his skill position guys to work for him. And I think that's going to allow him to sustain himself if this team can continue to surround him with talent. I mean, the contract. Go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to. I just
want
you're
fine.
Get your opinion on this, because I think this is interesting. And I don't know how many times people have talked about this, but he's got Devontae Smith, who he played with at Alabama. He's got Landon Dickerson, who went down. How much of a factor do you think that playing with those guys for so long in college, even though he didn't stay there and he went to Oklahoma, but then having your best friend A.J. Brown, how much do you think that helped him with the whole trust level of feeding everybody around me?
Oh man, like you can't take that for granted. You can't undervalue that, because at the end of the day, when you have relationships with people, first and foremost, like even like in any walk of life, right? No matter what you do, right? Matter of fact, I'll put it to you this way. You ever, at the end of the school year growing up, you always find out what class you're going to be in. You get your report card and they tell you what classroom you're going to be in. Mm-hmm. And then, you're like, oh man, I hate this teacher, man. I hope everything works out. And then you get to the class on the first day of school and you see your homies in the back and you're like, yo, what's up?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And all of a sudden that class that you were nervous about, all of a sudden became maybe one of your easier classes. You just coast through it. You just slide through it like butter. So I think that's what that is, right? I feel like because he had his guy A.J. Brown, right? He had his guy Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, they went to school together. Because of guys like that, I believe that made his transition into his role that much smoother and allowed him to build trust at a quicker rate, because he works out with all his guys in the offseason. You know what I mean? Like, I had no idea him and A.J. Brown was this close until the trade.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I had no idea they were this close. Like, I had no idea he was the god parent to his daughter. I had no idea. So when you find out about this relationship, and then obviously the Smitty factor, you can't deny that. But I also got to give credit to Nick Sirianni in that regard, because I was reading this article written by John McMullen, and basically he spoke on how Nick Sirianni's presence in this organization has helped Howie Roseman begin to focus more on relationships rather than just I guess you'll say the X's and O's of the job of a GM. Nick Sirianni, the first day he got there, he said to Howie, "Hey, we're hanging out." Right. Howie was like, "Okay, what are we doing?" Sirianni was like, "What do you mean we're hanging out?"
See, I don't know if you remember, I had this whole theory about this, right? Like, I had a whole theory, like when they took I was telling everybody I thought Devontae Smith could end up an Eagle, and people were like, "No, Howie doesn't want to take a receiver 2 years in a row. He's not going to do it."
Now, granted, he did want a corner though. He wanted,
but
they obviously got picked up.
Right, but I said, see, I was like, I was listening to Nick Sirianni talk and stuff, and I was listening to a dual press conference, and I was listening to the way they were kind of talking to both, and how he would say something to Howie. And I was like, and I said to myself, I said, he knows how to talk to Howie. He's a Howie whisperer. And I started telling people this. They started telling me I was crazy. But I was like, you can't tell Howie Roseman, "Hey, I think I need this. Go get me this. I need a receiver. I need this." You have to make Howie think he came up with it. So it's like Inception, right? I used to talk about it, Inception. This is Inception. Nick Sirianni has Inception over Howie. He plants the idea in his mind. And now, so now you're telling me that, I'm thinking, I knew it was true. Inception, man.
No, you're right.
Plant it in his mind.
No, you're actually right. As a matter of fact, that's the first law of the 48 laws of power. Never outshine the master. Make them think that whatever ideas that you guys come up with is their idea. You know what I mean?
To my wife.
Tell them mine. Shit, like, right. You know what I mean? I gotta find a way to master that law. Like, make her think it was her idea, but it was really mine.
I let her think she's in charge. Yeah.
But no, you're right, man. Like, you bring up a good point, because I noticed it too. Like, I'm watching the press conferences whenever those guys are together, and it just seemed like Howie had a different glow about him.
Yeah.
He smiled more. It just
Yeah.
seemed like he was, I don't know, happy to be there. Like
Yeah.
it seemed like he was giddy to just get to work every day. I don't know.
Yeah. I used to talk about Inception. I'm like, Inception. People laughed at me. But I really felt it because it was just the way Nick would say something. Like if they were talking about a position going out and get it, the way he would say something like about a receiving position, and then he would say, but it's up, Howie how he's going to have to deal with it. I was like, he's planting seeds in his mind. I knew it.
No, you're right, man. I couldn't agree with you more. Nick Sirianni again just has Nick Sirianni has that he has that DJ Khaled level of annoyance. Like you can't help but to like, all right, man, all right. What do you need? All right, you know what I mean? Like he's going to smother you with his analogies and his metaphors and his love and his friendship. Like he's that friend that's like, all right, he's that friend that when you decide to stay in for the night, he's like, yo, come on. Everyone's gonna come on, it's me. And it's like, all right, I trust you. Come on, let's do it.
I like him. I think he's got.
I don't care anyone. I like that dude.
I like his personality. I think he's got a lot of a lot of spunk. I like that he's making faces. He's jumping up on the sidelines. Like I like that he's yelling at the referees. Like I think he has. I think I'm gonna say this is kind of crazy, but I think he may have the most personality as a head coach since Buddy Ryan.
That's you may be onto something. Obviously, Big Red didn't really have too much personality.
No,
Dougie P. He was usually even kill. The most personality you'll see from Dougie P. was, all right, you guys, let's go get some ice cream. Like that was that's the most personality you'll see from him.
Yeah.
But no, you may be right, man. Nick Sirianni, matter of fact, since we're on Nick Sirianni, I gotta ask you this, right? Obviously, we love him, man. He fits the Philly culture perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
But is Nick Sirianni slowly becoming the villain of the NFL? Are the Philadelphia Eagles and Nick Sirianni becoming the villains of the NFL?
If they win, if they win and then they're competing in an NFC Championship game in a year or two again, they're going to start to be, because I think naturally what happens is when you keep seeing the same team show up there or be in it, you kind of get sick and tired of them. And I think that mixed with the fact that he's, he does things that like Giant fans were triggered by him making faces in the camera after they scored.
Yeah, my man was in the camera like this, like, that's what we do.
like they didn't like that. So yeah, I think he kind of could be, and I absolutely revel in that. Like I love that. Let's go full Buddy Ryan day. Let's be the bad guys. I'm totally good with that. I love it,
I'm with you. And the good thing about it is Nick is able to do that because Jalen Hurts is the complete opposite. Jalen Hurts is an even kill, low-key dude, doesn't say too much. I actually think they balance both their personalities balance each other. I think their relationship is why this thing works. The players have Nick Sirianni, the super passionate guy that's going to give you the energy, going to chew you out and going to just give you all that electricity. And you have Jalen Hurts, who's just going to stabilize everything and just say, hey, I ain't got to say too much. You guys know what to do. You guys know your jobs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what's your thoughts on Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni's relationship and just how they coexist?
And it seems like it's great. It seems, and I like what you say about how they balance each other out, because you're right. Hurts is all business, and he's very even keeled. And you probably need that more from your quarterback. And then you get Sirianni, who's very emotional, obviously. I think it's a good relationship, and I think it's interesting because it's not what was planned. When the Eagles hired Nick Sirianni, they were hiring somebody from Frank Reich's coaching staff to get Carson Wentz back in back to
back
form.
on the side.
So I don't think that was the intentions to have him and Jalen Hurts, but I think Nick Sirianni won that team over last year when he changed the whole offense in season to start running the ball and do what was best for the team. You know what I'm saying? Give up play calling to Steichen. To me, that showed me, like, to me, that won me over. And I'm sure it won a lot of those players over. And now, with him and Jalen Hurts, it's just a blessing, man.
Yeah, Nick Sirianni strikes me as that kind of guy. Because remember when he first got here, one of the first things he said, and I'm not going to reference that first press conference. I'll be honest with you.
Oh, right.
I'll be honest with you. I felt like people was just piling on, man. Like I was like, come on, man. Like he's first day on the job, he's nervous. Like give a goddamn break. Like I honestly felt like I'm like, yo, can you guys relax? Like, yeah, it was a bad presser. It was weird.
I didn't care.
And I didn't care about it because I'm like a press conference is not going to tell me how good of a coach someone is. I'm sorry, it's just not.
Right.
But Nick Sirianni. Oh man, where was I going with this? Nick Sirianni, like you said, he won that locker room over because of the key decisions he made at big times, at key moments in the season. Right, he could have lost that locker room. He could have lost those guys because remember, Fletcher Cox spoke out against Jonathan Gannon because he didn't like playing the nose. He was on the verge of losing that locker room, but he decided to change the way they played, and him and Shane Steichen changed the offense to fit around Jalen Hurts' skill set and started running the ball more. And Shane Steichen started calling plays at that Chargers game. And when you think about it from that perspective, Nick Sirianni he always seems to have the pulse of his team for a guy that emotional guy. He's a player's coach. That's I don't think there's any doubt about that. But when he first got here, one of the first things he said was, "Hey, listen, I'm going to lean on my veterans to tell me what these guys need to do with their bodies." You know what I'm saying? Like I'm going to meet with the guys like Kelce and Fletch, Lane. I'm going to meet up with the guys that's been here, the veterans, and I'm going to ask them, how do you guys want to approach OTAs? How do you guys want to approach training camps, so on and so forth. So from the beginning, he made it clear where he stood with his guys. He was going to trust his veterans, and I think putting that, trusting his veterans and putting that amount of accountability on them, allow them to get closer to him.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. I like the guy, man. I do. I also think that there's that people act like he doesn't know X's and O's. I was going in that Giants game. All I kept hearing the Giants, and I was doing streams with guys that were like, well, the Giants definitely have the advantage coaching wise. I'm going, why? Why do you have the advantage coaching wise? And I think and then you heard the stuff by Julian Love, the safety of the Giants, saying that he's just there for the free ride. Nah, I couldn't disagree more. I think he's a lot better coach than he gets credit for. Just like I think Jalen Hurts is a lot better passer than he gets credit for.
I don't understand why people think he has nothing to do with what their success. He has to approve every single thing that goes on that field, that happens on that field. And ultimately that offense, Steichen is calling the plays and stuff like that, but all those plays got to go through Sirianni, and it's made in his image. It's ultimately what he wants to do. Nothing happens on that field that he doesn't want to happen.
Hey, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I one of the big things that is not talked about enough with this coaching staff, in my opinion, I've said this countless times on my channel, but if you look at the Eagles early on in the year when they were beating teams, we would have big leads, right? And then all of a sudden these teams would come back and make it a game at the end. And people are like going like, what's going on? Why we keep giving up the leads? And I kept saying the coaching staff is learning how to win. They're learning on the job as well as
that's a good observation.
They're learning to win. And
I didn't think about it like that.
And you started the second half of the season, you start seeing they didn't give up these leads in the second half. They started to know when to go out and put a team down. Like the Cowboys game the first Cowboys game was perfect. Like they needed to go and put them out of their misery. They let them hang around. I think they learn on the job, and I watched this coaching staff learn how to win this year, man. So nobody can tell me that they don't know what's going on or they're not doing a good job.
Yeah, and then there's different types of coaches. You have your coaches that call plays. You have your coaches who are more CEO guys. They oversee, and they're really good at situational football. Like another thing that doesn't get talked about with Nick Sirianni that I think is going to play a key role in this. I think he's a better situational. I think from the beginning of the season up until now, he hasn't made, in my opinion, we haven't seen Nick Sirianni make one error when it comes to the clock, when it comes to his timeouts, when it comes to situational football. He has not made a single error when it comes to, riding the wave of a game. What's your thoughts on just how he's handled games, situational football, understanding the clock, timeouts, knowing what to do coming out of the half and going into each quarter and stuff like that? I just felt like I haven't seen him make any sort of situational mistakes. When you see Nathaniel Hackett when he was with the Denver Broncos making those crazy decisions, you see Brian Daboll in the playoffs go for it on 4th and 8 on the first drive because he felt like, damn, this Eagles team is humming. We need to get points quick.
Yeah.
When he probably could have took the 3 points. But what's your thoughts on Nick Sirianni in terms of just his situational play calling, his him just having the pulse of having the pulse on the identity of a game and understanding just knowing how to ride the wave.
I think it's been pretty good. To me, like I said earlier, the biggest thing was that I felt like they didn't know when to go for the kill early on. They didn't know when they had the Cowboys on the ropes. They didn't know, all right, now as you take your shot, you end zone. Now we put them away. Like I felt that early on was a problem. They'd come out, they'd have a lead, and they were trying to run a clock out with a whole half to play. They got much better at that and started doing that in the fourth quarter instead, and they just got better at those kind of things. So I haven't really seen too many things I haven't liked that he's done. I'm sure there's thing here or there, but I think it's been pretty good, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and the white Carlton Stanton brings up a good point. He was a wide receiver at Mount Union. He definitely has a wide receiver ego. He has that wide receiver swagger or juice about him, right? You know what I mean? Like, and you see it in his coaching style. You see it, like, you know what? I'm starting to believe something. I'm starting to believe that Nick Sirianni is playing possum to the whole NFL. They think he's just this over emotional, unhinged Italian guy on the sideline that's just telling people what to do, and I feel like he plays like he doesn't know what he's doing. He plays like he's unhinged. I mean, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but he definitely gives you that impression on the sideline, like he's just this emotional rah.
He's a silent assassin,
cocky Italian, but in reality, he's pushing buttons over there. The sniper.
I think maybe you might be right. My only issue with Nick Sirianni is that he said he ordered Pizza Hut pizza. Okay, you live in that area and you can't be ordering Pizza Hut pizza, man. There's too many good places out there.
Especially in South Philly. He didn't have to. He could have just said, "Yeah, we ordered a pizza." He could have kept it playing.
That's it.
But then again, maybe one of the reporters would have said, "Oh, where'd you order it from?" Then he probably had to tell the truth then. But no, man, that Pizza Hut thing was hilarious, and it's so funny. I haven't had Pizza Hut in so long, it's so many mom and pop shops in Philly when it comes to pizza. Like you don't have to order a Pizza Hut.
Right?
Like you really can't. It's wild, man. I want to ask you some questions about the defense, man.
Okay.
The Eagles are going to have to deal with Travis Kelce at some point in this game, man. I think Kaiser White has to have a big game. I think Kaiser White he has to work in concert with Avonte Maddox and CJ Gardner-Johnson. Those three guys have to work in unison when it comes to defending Travis Kelce. What's your thoughts on the game plan for defending Kelce? How would you go about it?
He's the scary guy. To me, that's the guy that I'm scared of. Because the Eagles haven't been great against tight ends. I was thinking about this. I mean, obviously you have Kaiser White and Edwards, but what if you say, listen, every other one of the wide receivers, I think with Avonte Maddox, Darius Slay, Bradbury, I can play one-on-one. I can play man. Why if I put Chauncey Gardner-Johnson at times on Kelce and let him cover Kelce? Now, I know Kelce's bigger and his physical mismatch there, but from a coverage standpoint, I think he can run with him at least. And what about if maybe even every once in a while throw Bradbury on? Well, why not? Like switch it up a little bit, because I don't worry about their other wire. I ain't worried about Juju and Stanley.
I'm not worried about them at all.
I'm not worried about them. Kelce scares the crap out of me, but to me, I would like to give him looks with like Bradbury on him, or Charles Gardner-Johnson. I would avoid the linebackers if I can, because I do not think they can cover him. or stay with him at all.
Yeah, I noticed in that Giants game, Jonathan Gannon had there was moments where you saw CJ back, in the back, in the you saw him playing safety, and then he'll creep up to the line of scrimmage, and then all of a sudden he'll blitz, and you'll see maybe I'm trying to think who it was. You might see Avonte Maddox drop back completely into that safety position.
Right.
You saw Gannon mix and matching with Avonte and CJ and moving those guys around the line of scrimmage, and you saw them just doing a lot of pre-snap motion on defense, and all of a sudden what actually happens isn't what we saw initially. Gannon so far, in my opinion, has been calling some of his best games.
Absolutely. To me, Gannon has been absolutely fantastic in the playoffs. I mean, I don't know where this has come from. Like, people said he's holding back to the playoffs. It looks like they were right. My thing with Gannon is I just feel like sometimes he's not aggressive enough long enough, because when he's aggressive, they're always lights out, and then he'll back off on it. But in the playoffs, he really hasn't backed off on it. And I think that you can't give too much respect to Patrick Mahomes. I know he's great, but you can't let him go 19-20 in the first half. Like, you got to bring pressure, and you got to be willing to play man against those wide receivers. I really believe that.
Yeah, I agree. Again, none of those wide receivers scare me. I think it's going to be important for you to trust. This is where you got to trust, your star-studded, cornerback room. You got to trust your star-studded DBs, man. A guy that we haven't really talked about in this game that I think may play a factor is Reed Blankenship. I think there's going to be moments where you see him on the field, and I don't know. I think the thing with Travis Kelce, I think you got to throw different bodies at him. You got to throw him different looks, different bodies. So he sees one guy thinking he's going to do another thing, but in reality he's there to do something totally different. One possession you might throw Reed on him, you might throw CJ around him, because they're going to play zone. And I think the way with Travis Kelce is you have to just keep your eye on him, and you might have to try to jump some of his routes. You're going to have to, you can't just try to go body for body with him. You got to time. This is going to be a time and execution thing with this defense, because I'm not worried about the Chiefs running game. I'm not worried about any of their wide receivers. I'm just not. Travis Kelce. And, if I'm worried about anybody else other than Travis Kelce, Pacheco, he's a hard runner. Pacheco runs
and fast.
Yeah, he's fast. And he runs angry, man. Like I'll be honest, he runs like he's running on lava. Knees to chest, just runs hard. So, again, I don't think the Chiefs are going to even commit to their running game. I feel like they're going to try, but if Pacheco has too many runs where it's 1 yard there, 2 yards there, I just don't think he's going to. I don't see Big Red. I don't see Andy Reid sticking with it. I just don't see him sticking with it, especially when you have Patrick Mahomes. I feel like this is going to be one of those games where he leans heavily on Mahomes, and it's just not going to work, man. It's going to be a stretch in this game where the Chiefs had maybe 2 or 3 and outs in a row, and it's going to be the death of them.
I agree. It's going to be all about Mahomes, and that's why, to me, at the end of the day, the key to this game is going to be the Eagles getting pressure on Mahomes. That defensive line has to bother him. They have to bother him. They have to hit him. They have to knock him around, and they have to make it uncomfortable for him. I'm not saying they have to have 6-7 sacks, but I think you can't let him sit back there and pick you apart.
Yeah, you got to let them know that you're there. That's the bottom line. You got to get hits on. You got to get hands and feet on them somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, as we begin to close the show, man, I appreciate you for locking in with me.
Of course.
Taking that time. We've been going for about an hour and 15 minutes. I don't want to monopolize your evening.
No, I appreciate you having me on, though.
Yeah, for sure. So, before we get out of here, I want to get who you believe has potential to win Super Bowl MVP. Now, what I'm going to do is, this is how we're going to do it. I want you to give your obvious choices for offense and defense. So you're going to give a choice on offense, and you're going to give a choice on defense, and then you
both
can
teams
give just for the Eagles.
Okay.
Because I think we're going to win the game. Like, I'll be honest with you. Like, I think we're going to win the game. So yeah, I want you to give who you think can win Super Bowl MVP on offense, and give who you think can win it on defense, and then you can throw in a dark horse on offense, and a dark horse on defense. So in total, you're going to get 4 guys: 2 guys on offense, 2 guys on defense, one obvious choice on both sides, and a dark horse on both sides.
Okay. Well, the obvious is Jalen Hurts, right? I think that if most likely scenarios, if the Eagles win, Jalen Hurts is going to win MVP. So that to me is the most obvious one. Now, if I'm going to go somebody besides quarterback who I think, could be a bit of a dark horse, I'm going DeVonta Smith. DeVonta Smith on offense, because this is purely a gut feeling. I have a feeling that he's going to go off early, that he's going to have a big game. And so I think I could see DeVonta Smith 170 yards, 2 touchdowns in this game, something like that. Like, I just got this feeling about DeVonta Smith having a big game. So I would go him on offense. On defense, I'd go Haason Reddick. Reddick, with his ability to wreak havoc almost by himself. If it's going to go defense, it's going to be because somebody is getting to the quarterback and somebody is driving Mahomes nuts. Right. So I would go Reddick as far as defensive player, and then a defensive dark horse player, James Bradbury.
We got this. We literally have the same thoughts. Like really? Seriously, like I swear, I think I was talking to Bergang, BG31 yesterday, and he and essentially those were my picks, right?
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah.
But I'll switch it up. So obviously Jalen Hurts, Haason Reddick on offensive defense, obviously. But a dark horse other than the guys you mentioned, a dark horse on offense, I might say NFL Super Bowl MVP, dark horse on offense, a dark horse. Kenny Gainwell.
That would be
Kenny Gainwell. That's a pitch black horse.
That would pay a lot of money. That would pay a lot of money.
Yeah, like a dark horse. I feel like he's just going to take advantage of every opportunity he has, and he could potentially get it going in the passing game as well. Like you said, maybe they throw some running back screens to him. Maybe he can have a Corey Clement game. You know what I mean?
Right.
100 yards, 4 catches, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my dark horse on offense for Super Bowl MVP. My dark horse on defense, other than the guys you mentioned, I'm going to say C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
That's a good one.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson, if he does do it, that means he's caught 2 interceptions. And he took one to the house, a pick 6.
Oh man, I would love it.
So
that would be great.
Yeah. So also really quickly, prediction. What's your score prediction for this game? If you had, if you've thought about it thus far.
I've been thinking about it. I got the Eagles winning. I think it's going to be. I'm going to say they're going to win 34-24.
Okay, a 10-point differential.
Yeah.
I have a similar score. 10-point differential as well. I'm going to say 31-21.
31-21. Okay. I like it.
31-21. So yeah, man, 500, my guy. I appreciate you, man, for locking in with me for as long as you did, man. It means a lot to me. Every time I reach out, you always get back to me, barring any Twitter mishaps that we experienced today.
Yeah.
But yeah, every time I reach out to you, man, you always show me love, and you're somebody I could, I consider you a friend in this thing.
Definitely. Man.
I consider you somebody that I could lean on for guidance and insight in terms of this YouTube game. And my man, you're just a humble dude, one of the more genuine guys in this game, bro. And I do not take this relationship that we're continuing to nurture and build for granted. So, my man, I appreciate you. Anything you want to promote or anything you want to shout out before we get out of here, my man?
No, man. Just thanks for having me on. I feel the same way about you. I appreciate it, and it's always a pleasure to come on. So thank you.
Definitely, my man. Make sure you guys go subscribe to, well, what am I talking about? If you guys are subscribed to me, 9 times out of 10, you're subscribed to Philly 100, man. Easily the biggest Eagles YouTuber in this thing, man. Always giving you guys just that passion, that analysis, that insight. You know, always giving you guys the most spectacular filmmaking like Denzel Washington should.
Like Denzel.
You know what I'm saying? You know, King Dingbat, you know, and you know, in full effect, in rare form, as always. Listen, you guys, this is Philly 500. I'm your guy, Tone DeShields II. You guys were locked in on Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. One love, stay humble, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay hungry.